Hey, welcome to the isolation and self-isolation, exploring topics on a whiteboard. Let me just do a sound check and we'll get started. Pardon any background noise. Alright, so if you're new to the channel, welcome. These exploring topics on a whiteboard videos are definitely unscripted, one take as always, but they're going to be a little bit meandering, and they're not for everyone. Not every idea concludes, etc. But the idea would be that they lead to a more well-produced stream. So I've got about 20 minutes until my baked potato is done, and I need to get better at making these short anyway, so it's a win-win. So isolation and self-isolation. So what is isolation? Isolation is where there's you and then there's other people somewhere else. So self-isolation would be where you remove yourself from these people, and isolation would be where one person removes you from these people, right? And so there's different purposes to each, and I would say that self-isolation can also be induced indirectly. So, and it may be induced as a side effect of an isolation campaign. So if you know, like narcissism, they do the smear campaign. If this guy is talking, smearing you to these people, and these people, I mean, first of all, if they're even checking in with you, that's awesome, because a lot of people don't even check in with you when someone smears you to them. So good on them for checking in at least. Maybe one of them checks in and says, hey, this guy's smearing you to all of these other people. Say, like for me, I've got a system with 7 siblings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, and then when I was younger, there was my brother and I, but my brother passed. And then there was also mom, right? Sizes aren't representative of anything, whatever. So, in some ways, the person who's connected to the most people is the most powerful, right? So, sperm donor is at work all day, doesn't respect children as people because he was raised in a religious cult that children should be seen and not heard sort of thing, and he's an alcoholic, right? So he gets his updates about the kids from the mom. So the mom is in a position of power already to say whatever she wants to say about the 2 kids. Now, is she being dishonest? Is she being biased? It's impossible to know, right? Because we're not there for all the conversations between mom and dad. And then, you know, every weekend, dad's calling, you know, or getting called by his siblings, and then also our grandma, who's also connected to all of these people. And, I mean, is my mom good with my grandma? Yeah, as far as I know. Right? So it's like, there's this big web of people, and like, okay, so sometimes my brother and I go with my grandma for a weekend while she babysits us or something. But it's like the weight of this line, right? Like, mom with children are going to be very strong lines usually. Like, even my brother and I, like, we spent all day with our mom. And, well, no, not all day, but like not at school, on the weekend. but then not really with her, just in the same room as her, because, you know, she'd be watching TV or cleaning or whatever. In the afternoon, she'd start drinking. And yeah, Leah and I would be, my brother and I would be left to our own devices. And yeah, so then I guess obviously there's a relationship between brother and I. But I'd say it wasn't that healthy. I mean, we got along, we fought, all brothers fight and get along, whatever, part of life. So like, I don't really think back to this part of my life because, well, my mom and brother are dead. So it's like really hard to talk these things through with people, and I was so young. Like, by the time I was 14, I was working as much as possible. So, and I mean, that's freshman year of high school. So like, life before freshman year of high school for most people is kind of a blur, right? It's not really that meaningful, except when you're trying to unpack like programmed behavior that you have. So, I mean, personally, I haven't really gone that far back. This is supposed to go to isolation and self-isolation. So, yeah, just laying the groundwork of what, like, a family might look like. So, what does this have to do with isolation, right? So, I mentioned in the reverse discard video that, you know, something I noticed way too late was that all I ever heard about my cousins was negative, right? Meaning stuff would go through dad, through sperm donor, and it would just come out negative. Like, it was either, you know, cousin got into trouble for this, cousin, you know, got high and rolled their car over, cousin is pregnant at 14 again, another cousin's pregnant at 15. I mean, yeah, some would say, oh, that's a great thing, that's a blessing, indeed. But it's, you know, young, unmarried, you know, it's kind of, it's like all we ever heard is, oh, this cousin's pregnant, oh, that cousin's having a baby, oh, not married sort of thing, you know. So already, you know, it's like if all we're hearing is negative, and this might be like, okay, we're at a family gathering and they're talking about negative things that cousins are doing. Well, something I learned way too late in life is that if people are talking a bunch of negative about other people, then they're going to talk negative about you. It's like, oh, busted. You're going on the internet talking all this negative stuff about your relatives. That means I shouldn't be close to you because you're going to talk negative about me. If I have a choice to walk away, I do. Like, when I can just walk away from an employer, I do, and I never say anything. Now, if an employer starts, you know, giving unfair negative references and refuses to talk to me about it and resolve any issues, blah, 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 then that is a person with power over me, right? And so the person with power over you has whatever reasons to, you know, it's to isolate you, and, you know, is speaking negatively and only passing negative things on to other people about you, isolating you. I mean, one could argue logically, no, it's not isolating you, it's they're, you know, they're making their own decisions about what to believe and blah, blah, blah. But practically, I think, yes, it is isolating to pass on only negative info about people. Maybe good stuff here and there. Like, so one thing that I mentioned, I think in the reverse discard as well, is every system like this needs to have one golden child, one person who gets to be propped up, and like, so I've got like then a bunch of cousins, etc., etc. But then it might be that only the good stuff that I do is passed on to them, because the family needs one successful person. Makes sperm donor look like a good father if he's got a successful kid. I'm sure probably each of the aunts passed on good information about their children to my sperm donor, but the sperm donor didn't pass it on to us. You know what I mean? It's like the telephone game. What comes out the other end is never the same as what went in, right? going to change, it's going to be left out, stuff's going to be added. So this is an example within a family system, so-called, you know, a relative system. I don't even know if we have a word like family for relatives. But yeah, the way I think about it in like the last year and a half is that family is blood, relatives are blood, and family is spirit. So there's two spirits in the world, the spirit of the Creator and the spirit of the God of the world. The Satan, the devil. Because, you know, there's the kingdom of creation that creates, and there's the kingdom of the devil that's all like hierarchical, top down, you know, part of my messed up block shapes. But yeah, so like within these sorts of, this is why, you know, nobody should have authority over another person, because everyone is like partially influenced by the God of the world through, you know, what we call incentives, money, need to feed your children, people overlook stealing bread to feed your children kind of thing. So let's see, definitely meandering. Like I said, this format isn't for everyone. So these are the kinds of systems that exist, and so we gave one way of isolating a person, which is just through gossip or slander, things that aren't true. And indeed, so slander is untrue things, and there's two kinds of lie. There's lies of commission, which is a direct lie, and there's lies of omission, which is leaving stuff out. So yeah, maybe they're not spreading lies, but also leaving out the good stuff is another kind of lying. So, right? So when a person has seen enough of this, maybe they'll self-isolate, because they'll say, you know what, I see the way that these relationships go, and I know there's no escape. Like, this person does something wrong, and now everyone's talking about it, amplifying it, They talk to grandma, and grandma understands, but nobody else really cares to understand. Is grandma going to talk about it to all the other people, right? So you got to, like, one by one, you know, you're 30 years old, these people are all 50 or 60 years old, they grew up together. Like, one word from this person is worth like thousands of words from this person. And then a person who explains themselves too much is also respected less. Hence, like, part of the reason my doing this channel is just crazy. If it weren't for me in the future, my accountability mechanism for the future, because even as a homeless person, like, literally, I could lose everything at any time. Even, like, as simple as a notebook might be too hard to carry. And also, I've had a backpack stolen with a notebook in it, and it's got, like, extremely personal stuff. And you don't want to lose, like, extremely personal information to some random person on the street. Like, you know, who knows what they're going to do with it. So you self-isolate because it's sort of like learned helplessness. Like, there's a thing where you have a dog, at first his tail's wagging, and then, like, you poke him with the cattle prodder, bzzzt, right? And the dog tries to jump over the wall, doesn't quite make it. Poke it like 30 times, and I'm not advocating animal cruelty, obviously. This is like just an example. The dog eventually, it learns that there's nothing it can do. It's just got to take these pokes. And so after like 30 pokes, he just stops and he just lays on the ground and he takes the pokes. Bzz, 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 right? So that's sort of like the same psychology that goes into self-isolation sometimes. It's like you see that nothing you do will fix the situation, right? And it's like, oh, well then just leave. Well, for example, a kid or... Well, first of all, everyone needs enough money to just leave. And I've talked a lot about the various reasons why I can't... Well, the cost of just leaving now is all of my work throughout my life. And... Alright, so why might I be isolated here? Why might this relative have invited me to come and then from day one started acting hostile towards me? Like, I can't say abusive because there wasn't absolute power when I came. And I did indeed leave once, but I came back because it was still during pandemic. So I went back home. I filed a request for court for a hearing with my employer who's isolated me, and through the reference check process and through private investigators coming to my workplace. So when they first took me to court, it was going to be like, the hearing was going to be in like a week or two, right? And so I asked for more time than that because it was a 250-page complaint, and like I needed to read it, understand it. It was the second one that was served to me. So I had read the first one, but the second one, since after the first one I did not mention, or I didn't even mention my boss who I was upset with after the first one. So I figured the second one is probably a lot different than the first one, because previously I was mentioning my boss on Twitter, like trying to get him to talk to me after trying to resolve it privately through email, of course. So I learned, okay, email, again, learned helplessness. Okay, email's not going to work. I'll tell them that if they don't respond to my emails, then I'm going to talk about it publicly. So what did they do? They kept not responding to my emails, and then they lawyered up, filed a restraining order. You know, if someone with the power to give references to you is stonewalling you, that is abuse of their power, because they do indeed have power, because you need to do references to get future employment, right? So what might the incentive be to stonewall you, isolate you? You know, especially reactive abuse, like one thing that narcissistic people know is that if they can trigger the other person into doing something wrong, then anything that they've done wrong becomes basically invisible, because people only look at the thing that the person did wrong in response, the reactive abuse. So yes, the reactive abuse is wrong. It is indeed the sign of an unhealed person. I can definitely admit that. But it, you know, which is why it's the perfect vehicle to use to cover up any wrongdoing of the past. And it doesn't undo wrongdoing of the past. But as far as like 90% of people are concerned, they'll see that, oh, you acted crazy in response to their crazy-making behavior, stonewalling, abusing their power. Now, if they were not in the reference check process, it would be a crazy response, right? And so back to the beginning, like, oh, people should not associate with me because I'll do this crazy stuff. Like, which one of my friends have I outed on the internet? Zero. I don't out anybody who is not in a position of power over me and not abusing that position of power over me. Like, so even down to my relatives. So now, yes, I was wrong for outing two of my relatives online. You know, straight up. I had tunnel vision because I felt like, okay, I'm kicked out of my career because of the employer, because of the... I'm kicked out of... There's the potato. I'm kicked out of my new career because of the private investigators coming and dealing with the administration there, making me look bad. Oh, well, you did the thing that was bad, so you made yourself look bad, right? That's what everyone says. So, indeed, whatever. So, reactive abuse, it just covers up what happened in the past. So, now my anxiety's kicking from the potato because obviously it's done. So like the incentive might be to, let me go turn off the oven quick. Alright, so the incentive for my relative to invite me here, offer to move all my stuff here, etc. He knows that I was successful, had, enough stuff to move, right? So the idea might be get me here, do something to provoke me, kick me out, to the reverse discard video. He's been lending me money, get me to owe him more money than stuff I have so he can justify keeping it all. Meanwhile, each time I've been about to leave, something has come and interrupted me, right? Could be a total coincidence. We can analyze the data on that. And for the tens of thousands of dollars the employer has spent on lawyers and private investigators, for all we know, it's very easy to type my name into the internet, find out who my relatives are, and pay one of them off, 10 grand, 50, 60 grand, whatever, because of the wrongdoing, that they've done to me. If I were able to get a case together, get them in court in front of a jury, there would be a very large settlement. This is going on 6 years of this. And yeah, so there might be a number of reasons why a relative might be, prodding me. And for all I know, every single one of my aunts, so some of them have exploded on me, some of them have done bullying behavior on me, some of them have stonewalled me. Some of them have baby talked me. It just doesn't make sense. This is not how life was prior to 2016. So it's like everyone is under the impression that I've gone crazy, and then talking about my relative being abusive towards me every night, I don't know if I'm under a sleep deprivation campaign, but the more I signal that I'm trapped and out of resources, the more intense the nightly anger gets. And then, of course, my going online and talking about it on the internet, my relatives are watching, they're probably talking about it, and so that's just like reactive abuse. They can now be angry because I'm going online and talking about it, covering up whatever it is that's making me go online and talk about it. Oh, nothing's making you. You're choosing to do it, right? So, yeah, I forget if I've done a whole video on reactive abuse. I think I have done perhaps multiple. But yeah, so it's they prod you. So now the dog's not biting back, but by nature the dog will be trying to bite you, if you kick it or something. And so way back, before I knew reactive abuse, before I knew narcissism, I knew, I came up with this analogy or metaphor of, kick the best dog into the corner and what's going to happen. You might kick it. So there's this thing called duty to retreat, and I think even animals know this on some level. And alternative to this is stand your ground. So this is what an animal does, like in its nest. Right? So the dog, it might have started over here and it's like kick, 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 kick. Now the dog's in the corner and you kick it one last time. What happens? It's like, arf, right? And so reactive abuse, it's like the dog has, abuse is power plus violence, right? So, okay, the dog has a strong jaw. So the dog can physically abuse in some ways by doing violence to the person who's abusing it, right? Who's, being an aggressor to it. So the dog has naturally run as far away as it could. It's probably smart enough to not get trapped in a corner unless it's actually like a room with a closed door. So finally, the dog bites. It doesn't have anything to do other than bite. Even though it knows not to bite, it's a good dog, etc. So, you get stonewalled, you get exploded on, you get baby talked, you get, mocked, you get these different things from these different relatives. That's one behavior for a dog. But self-isolation is another behavior. It's just like, okay, now I'm in my own little bubble. Nobody's allowed to talk to me. People will then start trying to talk to you. They'll start trying to get a reaction out of you. And it's like, maybe they give you a gift or something like this. And now, if you don't take the gift, you're a jerk. If you take the gift and don't say thank you, you're a jerk. How do you even reject the gift? Right? They'll probably send it through another relative who has physical contact with you, right? So, yeah, we could talk a lot more about this. It's just so one thing is I'm partially physically isolated and partially isolated and partially self-isolated. So it's like I'm self-isolated from people who I choose, my family, my spirit, my friends back home who I've chosen, because I'm so used to just getting all of this garbage dumped on me that it's like if I were to talk to them, I'm just not even the same person. It's not emotional immaturity to be beat down from being a punching bag and then not want to, burden other people with all of that. And it's like you can't just not say anything about it. You can't just pretend everything's good. If your glass is not full, if your glass is half full, you can't really go to other people with a full glass. Because they can tell, and then they'll just be kind of weirded out with you, and then, it's not that they won't be friends with you anymore, it's just, it's almost like a vacuum. You'll be sucking their energy just for the simple fact that you don't have it, without even trying. And so you kind of have to stay here, and like we said, there's God of the world and Creator God. So it's like you stay in your inner, your inner bubble, just you and the Creator God, filling up your glass in some sense. So I'm sitting here practicing programming languages, learning how to cook, organizing my stuff, making these videos, even though nobody might like them or watch them or whatever. It's just in the future, when I have time to process things more, I can go through it and say when I'm in a better spot where my glass is full, when all of these people are out of my life, when I'm back to where I want to be, my glass is full, that I can now connect with these people with my full glass. There's no vacuum trying to suck their stuff into my glass. So probably more on this topic. I know it took a long time to set up in the beginning, and we didn't get to very many connected ideas. But yeah, like, the main thing is, you know, there's like induced natural behavior. There's the vacuum of your cup not being full and not wanting to connect with other people and drain their energy. And I mean, of course, in retrospect, they'll all say, oh, they'd be happy to help, etc. But, you know the reality of the situation. So, yeah, isolation and self-isolation. Thanks for joining. And that potato will be most excellent. I'm going to put a nice ripe avocado on it and some salsa that's been warming to room temperature, and there's some taco sauce on it. So that'll be good. All out of black beans for now. But yeah, it's been what I've been eating for like all year basically. So fun times, fun times. Thanks for joining. Bye.